Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ethos Online. Again, this is a space where we can be, belong, and become the very best version of ourselves. So, wherever you're joining us, whether you are from California to Michigan, wherever it is, we just want to say welcome. And this is a safe space. This is a safe space where people grow. And so, again, in this study that we do often, we come together and we ask deeper questions. And so people are always asking me, where are you finding information? What books, what rabbis are you studying? And so I'll often tell them, look, I go way back. I oftentimes will look at the actual words behind what the actual meaning are behind the words. I'll look at some ancient rabbinical studies. We'll look at Rabbi Rashi, some of the best Torah commentary. But we'll always look at what the audience of that time, who they were, what the intent of the author was, all of those things. We do a lot of study just so we can appreciate, understand the text. And so, again, I think that's so important when we live in a world of kind of McDonald's style Christianity, right? You go through the drive-through, you get the quick message. It's pleasant, it's nice. There's a funny story. The pastor will tell some funny hooks and jokes, and then you leave. But the truth is, this beautiful piece, right? Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and the rest of this compilation we call the Bible, when you pull it from its original context, it kind of cheapens it. And so I think a lot of people will miss the real beauty if they don't delve deep. And so that's why we are constantly dedicated to going deeper and deeper and showing that original intent, because we think it's so important. So before I start, there was a question that was asked, and so I wanted to address it the last couple of weeks. I just didn't have the time. And so today we'll look at this question. I think it's a good one. It's one for me. If you had asked me 5 years ago how I would have thought about this question, probably would have been a different answer. Ask me 20 years ago, different answer. And so I want to even start by saying we all grow, we evolve, we shift, we change. And because of that, I even hold these question and answer times lightly. But I can tell you, this is where I am at this moment with these questions. And I promise every time I get a question, I study, I take time to really consider it, and I give you a heartfelt answer. One that's not just heartfelt, but also I took time to move through the intellectual study to answer it. So here was the question, and I think it's a good one. It's fair. In your opinion, should the New Testament be viewed how you view the Old Testament? Like, are these stories true or more fish tales to bring a deeper message? I think that's kind of interesting, how you view the Old Testament. In a nutshell, this question, what it's really asking of is it's asking the question of literalism versus symbolism, right? And I get the fear that many of us will have when you approach the Old Testament and you begin looking at certain stories, certain numbers, certain ages, certain stories that have cyclical cycles. They're the same story told now through a different person. When you view it that way, then the question, of course, the slippery slope logical fallacy is, well, where do you draw the line, right? And I get that. I've asked that question many times. So what do you do with the New Testament then, right? If the Old Testament has many of these metaphorical stories, symbolic meanings. So here's what I do with the New Testament right now. When I look at the New Testament, I see beauty there, so much beauty. But when I look at the life, the stories of Jesus, all of it, what I find is interesting. Because just starting with the birth narrative, right? Only 2 Gospels of the 4 share a birth narrative. So even consider that. You have all of this history of the life of Jesus, but you miss most of it, right? We're starting in his late 20s, right? That's a lot of time we've missed. But both of the 2 birth narratives, right, of the 4 Gospels, the 2 that discuss the birth, they don't even agree on details, right? The details there's many dissimilarities there. And so what do you do? If the New Testament is truly a history book, what do you do when these details don't match up, right? Also, when you look at Jesus' message, often what you'll find is it's almost like the writers had the Old Testament open, and as they wrote, they were looking at the Old Testament, and they were essentially using the Old Testament to funnel through words and concepts through Jesus, right? So even when you look at like Jesus on the cross, literally almost word by word, my God, why have you forsaken me? Right? Most people would say, oh yeah, that's Jesus on the cross. But if you're Jewish, the immediate response is no, that's Psalm 22. Right? They divide my clothes. They mock me. They scorn me. They pierce my side. This is all directly from Psalm 22. But what they've done is they've taken Psalm 22 and they've essentially allowed Jesus as the person to be the mouthpiece of Psalm 22. Right? It's a really interesting way of writing. It's a Jewish way of writing. And they did this often through Moses, Abraham, Joshua, all of it. But here's the question I know many of you are thinking then. So was Jesus there? Did he exist? All these things. I believe, this is a belief of mine, and I'm sharing it with you. I believe, yes, Jesus existed. He came, lived, died, came to show the Father, right? Show the deeper perspective of who the Father is, right? I came on behalf of the Father. So much beauty there. So all of that in a nutshell, I see all these different perspectives of who Jesus is. And I'll just say this. I used to swim in these circles where I would argue or try to take a stance on either perspective. Here's where I am. I find the message of Jesus the most compelling message there is. And it is becoming, and I say becoming because I continue to grow with it. It is becoming more and more the center of who I am. The message of loving one another, forgiving, finding ways to be in connectedness with others, bringing in the marginalized, all of these concepts, I am learning to allow that to become the center of who I am. And so the Jesus message to me, Jesus is the most, at least for me, one of the most important messages there is. And so I'm not really even, this kind of question, while I appreciate you asking it, it's not one that I'm asking much anymore. The real question for me is, what is Jesus teaching me now? And how do I live that out right now, especially in the middle of so much chaos, so much division? How do I learn to live this thing out now? And I think when we start asking that question, over these questions, and while these are important questions, I think that question is more important. How do I live the Jesus message, make it become the central part of my being now? Again, when we do that, I think we grow, we learn to accept others more fully, and we really begin to live in shalom with one another. So I hope that's a decent answer. I know many people are hoping the black and white response, but I think it's a more centered answer for me, especially in this place I'm in now, which I would argue for me, I feel like it's a healthier one now that I'm at 41. Haven't arrived, right? In Jewish culture, 60 is you arrive, right? But I'm growing, I'm changing, and that would be the answer that I would give right now at 41. So thank you for turning that question in, a really good one. So today we're going to delve into Genesis chapter 26. And just as a reminder, again, the Old Testament was not written as a history book. And so the reason behind compiling all of it was to remind these people who are in the middle of a Babylonian captivity, much like New Testament people in the middle of Roman captivity. It's to remind them, this is who we are. This is our center, right? Just like we were talking about just a second ago, this is who we are. Let's not forget our values, our rituals, our culture. Let's not forget what it means to be Jewish, to be a Hebrew person. And so that's why the stories are compiled in the first place. And again, going back to that original question, that's why they compiled the stories of Jesus in the first place. Right? It's not like when Jesus dies on the cross, resurrections, all of these things. The point was not that, okay, well, he's no longer among us right now, so we better compile this so we don't forget. That was not the point. It was after the temple was destroyed, 70 AD, right? They need hope again. They need to be reminded of who they are and who they aren't. And they already have Torah. And so this new message for a group of Jews and Gentiles is not necessarily Torah. It's the complete message lived Torah through Jesus. Really powerful. So these people in Genesis, 587 BC is their point, right? Babylon has essentially destroyed their temple. And so this is a response to the fears of assimilation, right? Genesis is the response to the fear that we might, as a people, assimilate to the values of Babylon, take on Babylon's gods, their values, their rituals. So that's the idea there. So today we delve into Genesis chapter 27. And last week, we did some hefty lifting, didn't we? We delved through a lot of verses, a lot of text. Today, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to do the opposite because today we're going to look at one verse. And this one verse in chapter 27, there's two phrases there that there have been books, multiple books written on just these two phrases, one of them in particular. There have been countless rabbinical studies where there are volumes over this one phrase. And so today, I'm going to take you through this one phrase and just show you the significance of it, and then how we can literally learn to apply it to today. So here we go. Before even delving in, this is what one Rabbi Rashi says about this phrase. Genesis 27, verse 1, must be explored with the deepest of thought, the deepest of intention. So I love this idea, first off. They did not approach the Bible as just, okay, let's just flip some pages and whatever my thumb lands on, that's my promise for today. They would never approach it that way. For them, it was, I'm going to first off walk with the divine as I open up this beautiful compilation that is going to reflect who I am and who I am not. And so the intention is a holy intention, they would say, right? It's one where we are going to explore the deepest reaches of it. And so Rabbi Rashi, in the rest of that quote, he essentially says, if you don't delve into this far enough, if you don't choose to be challenged by it, you have essentially cheapened Torah. And so we're going to take his words as a warning, and we're going to spend time with that. Right, we're going to respect the rabbinical writings of that day in the warnings here, the prophetic warnings. So here it is, verse 1 of chapter 27. It came to pass when Isaac was old, and his eyes were too dim to see, that he called Esau, his elder son, and he said to him, my son, and he said to him, here I am. Right, so it says, my son, his reply, here I am. So notice this first off. He called Esau the elder son. So really interesting to remember here. You have a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom, a younger kingdom and an older kingdom, right? You have these two kingdoms. And oftentimes these two kingdoms are at war with each other. They're constantly in turmoil. And so you have that as a Jewish person in the back of your mind as well. Right? But also keep in mind this, the eldest it's always assumed that the eldest is going to be the one that's going to get the prize, the blessing, right? And really, as you delve into some of the rabbinical ideas here, most rabbis, they will say this, the idea of the elder son being deserving of the blessing of the land, of the resources, this is an empirical idea. It's the way that empires think, right? Nations that have large power, right? We've been here longer. We are the larger army. We deserve to have the most control. We have the most bombs, so we should have the most control, right? We should be able to trade the most, blah, 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 blah. That is an empire, beastly empire way of thinking. And so interesting that as Israel is sitting there in Babylon captivity, they're saying, you know what? Maybe the blessings, maybe these huge kingdoms that are so proud, that believe that they are deserving of the power they have, maybe they aren't as deserving as they think. What if the deserving group is actually the meek group, the young group, the small group? What if it's the humble group that is deserving of the blessing? Now, if you were to share this message during that era, this would have seemed very odd, right? You want your lineage to be strong. So you see the strong hunter in Esau, right? You want to pour all your blessings, all your promises on him. He's he's gonna take your tribe and make it sustainable, make them the kingdom. But the Hebrew message is, you know what? Hold on though. Look at Jacob. Look at Jacob. There's something there, right? He doesn't have the big beard. He's younger, right? He's cunning. He's smart. He's loving. He's warm. He makes porridge, right? But there's something there, right? The peaceful one, the one that mother loves, right? So this whole dichotomy is a really interesting one for that time era. And all the rabbinical writings I've read, they all say this is the crutch. This is the crutch of what it means to be Hebrew. It is not to be powerful, warring, strong, beastly, empirical. That's not the idea there. To be a Hebrew is to walk humbly with your God, to be the one that is the shepherd, right? That is walking peacefully among these prairies, right? That's the idea there with this idea of Jacob. So you have the two different ones. One is deserving, and it may not be the one that you think is deserving. And we'll kind of tease that out in a minute, but let me continue on. It came to pass, he called Esau, his elder son. He said to him, "My son." And Esau said to him, "Here I am." So, here I am. This phrase, when a Hebrew person hears the phrase, "here I am," first off, if you are in the audience, if you're listening to the rabbi, there are constant murmurs, and you will hear them. You will hear acceptance and aha, aha, amen, amen, right? Elohim, Elohim. You will hear those responses when you hear the phrase, "here I am." It's almost like at a football game, right? Someone says, "Let's go Lions," and everyone else starts cheering Lions, which, not a very good football team, but I think you get the idea. People would hear the phrase, they would repeat the phrase, and then there would be this warmth and this excitement in the air, because that phrase, "here I am," is a really, really holy one. And so when a Hebrew person hears, "here I am," there is some depth to this. There's some travel used on this word. Here I am. It has been used over and over again in the Bible. Let me share with you. Here I am. Think about this. Here I am. Samuel, right? Samuel, the young one, right? The one that has been treated very kindly by mom. He is not going out into the wars, any of that. He's asked to be the prophetic voice. This young, innocent child. The hopes of the kingdom fall on Samuel. And what does Samuel do? Most of you know this. You grew up with this on the felt board, right? You heard the story. Samuel, again, is falling asleep. He keeps hearing this voice, and here it is in verse 4. "And the Lord called to Samuel, and Samuel answers, 'Here I am.' He ran to Eli, said, 'Here I am, for you have called me.'" And Eli says, No. "Here I am" is not directed to me. "Here I am" is always to be directed to the divine, to Yahweh, right? To God. "Here I am, Lord," right? That's what you must say, Israel. "Here I am." So this story, one of the most popular of Jewish stories, Samuel, "Here I am." But there's more, right? "Here I am" has a lot of mileage if you're Jewish. Abraham, Genesis 22:1. God's next words, remember he says, "You're going to have to sacrifice your son," right? Isaac, we were just talking about. Abraham steps into this call. He's about to do this thing. And then in verse 11 of that chapter, Abraham steps in and he says, "Here I am, Lord." Right? "Here I am." A pinnacle moment, right? The divine saying, I don't demand sacrifice. Right? I ask that you follow me in faith. That was the idea, that you live this thing fully, this Torah, live it fully. I don't need blood. I don't need sacrifice. Right? I'm not that kind of God. I want something deeper. Right? I don't want your fear. I want your love. I don't want your fear. I want you to walk with me and trust me. That was the deeper idea here. And Abraham's response is so beautiful. Here I am, right? So good. Moses, right? We're hitting on all the big ones, right? All the bigs. Moses, Exodus 3:4. Moses, he goes into this desert, and there in the desert, he sees the burning bush, right? And the idea again, the burning bush, how long it had been burning there? Well, God's presence was always there, right? And so when the burning bush moment happens, Moses' words, you guessed it, here I am, right? Here I am. You are calling me. Here I am. Here I am. There's something deeper to do here. There's a journey that needs to be taken. There is an actionable step that needs to be done. Here I am. That phrase is so holy for the Jewish nation. Here I am, right? And so Samuel, Moses, you have Isaiah, right here, Isaiah 6:8. This is the beginning of the God's commission basically to Isaiah. And he goes on to become one of the greatest prophets. But again, what are the phrases there? Here I am, right? I am stepping forward. I'm taking the call. I'm going to live this thing. When you look in the New Testament, right, you have this really interesting character with Paul, Ananias. This is the only occurrence of someone actually responding to God. And what is his phrase? What's the phrase? Not a surprise, right? Here I am. I'm going to step into this really difficult, incredible journey where I'm going to be sharing the message of Jesus to the world, right? And I heard the challenge, and he stands up and says, here I am. Send me, right? There are songs written about this, tons of books written about this. Here I am, send me. And so I like Rabbi Joshua ben Korkach. He says this, here I am is a statement of intention. It is the spiritual journey meeting the literal one where Yahweh, the man, and man meet. Here I am is a signal that the Hebrew narrative is about to spike. I thought that was so cool. The idea of spiking. When you hear an individual in Torah say, here I am, and you've read Torah many times if you're Jewish, right? You hear that here I am phrase, you lean in. You know in this story plot, you're about to get to a really climactic moment. Here I am is a dangerous phrase, right? Here I am. That's not just going to invoke like, yay, it's going to invoke some pretty crazy, sketchy journeys. It's going to invoke brokenness. It's going to invoke death sometimes, but it also is going to invoke promise. It's going to bring about celebration, triumph. It's going to do all those things. Here I am is a really fascinating word. And I love the phrases here. It's one of intention. So good. So every one of these moments, this is the ancient story. The story of Isaac and Jacob, Esau and Jacob. What we have here is it's a story that we've heard many times. And I know that as we move through Genesis and on to other books, you'll find it's a story that's retold more and more. It's an ancient story retold. Samuel, right, unworthy. David is unworthy. Actually, like we find out, no, he's actually the worthiest, right? Yet there's like a deception that has to happen in order for him to rise to power, right? It's beautiful. The story over and over again. David and Goliath. I want you to even think a little deeper about that one. David and Goliath, on all accounts, remember this moment, Samuel goes and he looks at the lineup of all of the brothers. And by all accounts, any one of those brothers would have seemed like a better fit for the kingdom if you were going by beastly empire standards, right? If you were going by Babylonian standards, any one of those men would have been a better fit than David. Because Israel, when they read that story, they are seeing themselves not in any of the other brothers who are stronger, more powerful, more well-equipped. They see themselves in David, right? They see themselves in David, who really is the cunning one, right? He is the fierce fighter. But he just doesn't look the part, does he? David fought and killed bears and lions, right? We know these things, right? But on the surface, God says, the surface, man, that's what man looks at. But God says, I look at the heart, right? And so think about these two people, Esau, Jacob. God says, no, no, no. I look at the heart, right? There's something deeper going on. Joseph. Think about Joseph. Joseph's the youngest, right? The youngest never gets the blessing. Yet somehow the father, right, continues to pour the most blessing on Joseph. Gives him the coat of many colors. Again, whether you take this literally, symbolically, I'm more interested in the meaning, the point of it, right? Joseph is Israel. Joseph is going to go through trials, brokenness, but he becomes great because of those trials and tribulations. He becomes the one that's actually worthy of the blessing. And we wouldn't have known that in the beginning. However, the idea is God, the Father, knows who's worthy of the blessing, right? Who's worthy in the investment. And so Israel sees themselves as we are worthy of the investment. We are worthy of the promise. We are worthy of the blessing. Really pretty beautiful. And that reminds me, of course, of Jesus, right? When we're looking at these different individuals, these different characters, what most rabbinical writings are not going to bring up is Jesus, right? But for me, I look at this and I say, yeah, you had Moses, you had Jacob, you have David, Samuel, Joseph, all these different characters, right? Jesus, think about Jesus, youngest born into really chaotic trials, faces cultural giants, right? Faces a really broken system religiously, politically. He faces all these things, right? Jesus faces it all, and yet his message over and over again, here I am, not my will, but thine, right? Here I am, send me. And when he chooses his disciples, the same message. All right, here I am, send me. I will go with you, right? Which is just another turn of phrase of saying, here I am. Really pretty cool. And so for Israel, this idea for Israel was, here I am, is the deeper message that though I am in the middle of turmoil, I am going to trust that the divine is going to bring me into the new thing. The beautiful spaces, right? Here I am, Lord. It's the message that I too am going to go, right? I'm going to move in this thing. And so then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send? Right? We know this verse from Isaiah. And who will go for us? And I said, here I am, send me. Isaiah was speaking to a group of people during a really tumultuous time in Israel's history, a time where they were asking, what's going to happen to our nation, right? Their leaders were weak leaders. They were watching as their values were crumbling. They're watching as so many other kingdoms were beginning to kind of close in on them. And Isaiah says, no. Lord, here I am, send me, right? Where are the people who are praying that prayer? Here I am, send me. I heard this story about Jackie. A friend of mine knew her really well. And Jackie, her story is fascinating to me because Jackie's one of these people that I would kind of be like, I don't know if that's a good idea. Like maybe I would warn you. But Jackie basically, one day she said, I'm going to start saying this prayer. Lord, I'm here, send me. Wherever I need to go, put me there. And maybe it's here. So she's saying this prayer. And she, out of the blue, she gets this idea. She needs to move, and get this, to Mozambique. It's one of the poorest countries in Africa. And so for me, when I hear this, I'm thinking, like stay in America, help out in your city, help locally, do those things. Do we really need more missionaries over there? Well, the beauty of it is they did, right? She felt this really deep burden. And again, how she felt it, what she saw, what she dreamed, all those things, that's her story, right? But Jackie felt really impressed to go there. And so again, one of the poorest countries in Africa. So the story goes, Jackie, my friend said, his good friend Jackie decided she's going to move there. And so she took very little with her. Backpack, some supplies. Jackie left. And so she moved, and she was a nurse. She was in the healthcare industry. And she thought, maybe that's why I'm going over. Maybe I can do something helpful. So my friend said, Jackie got there, and it took a little while until she finally started to connect to the healthcare workers there. And as she started to get to know the community there, she started to find out they had a lot of needs. Part of it was no one there knew how to organize things. And big surprise, Jackie, that was her thing. She was great at organizing supply chains. She was really good at helping get certain doctors and certain needs to certain places. She was really good at that. And in just a year's time, they had built up that one hospital there. And what happened is it got so much success. So many people started to go there that word got around, Jackie knows how to do this. Jackie's doing good things. And Jackie, over and over again, the story is she just kept saying that prayer. Here I am, Lord. Send me. Where should I be? Where should I go? And so she continued working with these people. And for 5 years, she continued building up these hospitals, helping their supply chains, bringing in different doctors from overseas just to come here and do different work there in Mozambique. And so my friend said Jackie was doing so many incredible things. But the reason I even know the story of Jackie was because he called me one day and he said, and this was years ago, he said, I just had tragic news about a friend. Apparently their bus, they were driving and they were going down a hill and the bus somehow flipped. And I've heard a couple stories of these moments. It flipped and Jackie was killed along with some other people. And it was tragic because Jackie did so much for that community. She said, Lord, here I am, send me. And when she felt the impression, she did what most of us wouldn't do. She heard it, she stood up and she said, I'm going to go. I'm going to go. And here's something that was said of Jackie, which I found really beautiful from her community there. And I wanted to read it to you because I found it so moving. Jackie was the living embodiment of Jesus among us. Though her physical presence is no longer with us, her work and values will go on through the healthcare work and the lives she has touched. We are forever grateful that God sent her to us. Right? Here I am, send me. Such a powerful phrase. No wonder Jewish rabbis have spent so much time talking to their congregations, their people, about the importance of this prayer. Because really this prayer is a posture of openness. It's saying to the divine, I am willing to step out in faith, trusting that the thing is going to work out. And wherever I go, I can bring shalom too. I can bring kingdom of heaven wherever I go. And I wonder sometimes how many of us are brave enough to say that prayer. It's a scary prayer to pray, isn't it? Because once you say it, you just put it out there, didn't you? Whether you want to call the divine, the universe, God, Jesus, however, whatever words you use here. Once you put that phrase out there, I know if you're like me, you know over time something takes place, doesn't it? Some kind of opportunity arises, something happens. Here I am. Here I am. Ananias, here I am, send me. You say those words. And so Israel in this moment, here I am, Lord. Here I am. I'm in the middle of Babylonian captivity. Here I am. I'm going to put my faith and my trust in you. Here I am. And so again, this story of these two brothers, remember, this is really the story of Israel, two halves. Keep that in mind, Israel and Judah, right? The northern kingdom, the southern kingdom, two born of the same mother, right? Yet the divine is going to lead them both, right? Esau is saying that. Esau says, "Here I am." Jacob follows the same path, right? Here I am. Where do I go? Where do I go? Jacob will have a really beautiful story, and we'll get to that too. But the story starts again with a reminder that God will lead if we're willing to follow. So good. I hope you enjoyed that. I really find that a really beautiful, compelling story. And truth be told, this study, you could study this for a month. Here I am. You can open up so many books. I had 5 of them open, and they were just huge sections to read through. And I read through as many as I could, but I realized this is a big, big study. But I think the real beauty and the power that I read through all of them, the constant thread was this over and over again. We need to begin saying the prayer, "Here I am. Here I am, send me." Here I am, whether that's at work. How can I bring shalom wherever I go? How can I bring this sense of peace, connectedness wherever I am? And the minute you begin feeling unworthy, right? The minute you feel like I just can't do the thing, I think the beauty is remembering the people, the individuals, the nations that the divine seems to use in the Hebrew narrative. It's always the weakest. It's always the ones that you don't expect that seem to do the greatest things. And so when I hear that, I have a lot of hope. So how do we take this home? Here's what I thought. How do I live here I am? How do I make this thing actually have some teeth, actually have some actionable steps? So I started thinking about my own journey and these moments where I have said the prayer. Sometimes I regretted saying the prayer, right? I regretted putting that out into the universe because ultimately things do happen, don't they? Right? Ultimately, some opportunity is going to arise. And so start saying the prayer. Number 1, start saying the prayer. Intentionally put this thing out there. To God, again, the universe, the opportunities will inevitably arise. They just do. And so I would start first just saying the prayer. Make it a daily thing. You know what? Here I am. Where can I go that's going to bring the most good, that's going to bring the most shalom wherever I can be? Where is it? Because once I'm aware of it, I'll go there. Number 2, take time to consider that call. So once you get the idea of Mozambique or wherever it is, or maybe just going to the local thrift store, helping out there, whatever the thing is, take time and just ask questions of it though. I've learned that's really important. Ask questions of it. Does the idea there, is it just something weird that I ate last night and now I have a thought, or a movie I watched? Not everyone should adopt kids, right? You watched a movie about adoption, and now you feel like you should stop. Ask questions of the feeling, the call, the opportunity, whatever you want to call it. Ask if it truly matches your values, if you can truly be a part of the thing and bring real value to it. Ask that question when you get that feeling, call, opportunity. Take time, consider it. Number 3, after you've done that and the things line up, I'm learning this. Walk. Go through the door. Take the opportunity. Don't wait too long. It's like that Robert Frost poem, right? Two roads diverge in a yellow road. He's essentially saying in this poem, you have to take a path. And once you take the path, go, right? Step onto the path, have the courage to move, go down the path, do it, right? Don't wait, just take the step after you've chosen. And then, following that idea of Robert Frost, don't look back. I think so many of us, we step forward and we start wondering, should I have stayed there? Should I have gone? I don't know. Did I make the right move? No. Once you've decided, I'm going to take that path, I'm going to step forward, fully be in it. Take the step. If it's, again, helping out at the thrift store, or if it's stepping into this new community of faith and you choose to help out here and there, whatever it is, walk in it fully, step in it fully, be fully present to the thing, and don't look back wondering if you should have chosen the other one. No, step fully in it. Be fully present to it. I think when we do this, that call, that answer to that call of here I am, it's so rich. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed this one. That was one verse, really two really deep phrases. But next week we'll delve into the rest of the story, a very popular story about Esau and Jacob. But for now, go to ethos-church.org/donate. Give that tax-deductible donation. Continue supporting this thing we do. We think that is so important, more than ever, that we delve into this Bible, this compilation of so much beauty, so much depth, so much tradition. And as always, if you consider following us online, if you want to join these online discussions, we have the Ethos living room groups that we'd love to continue doing. And subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, share these videos, and we would love to continue connecting with you. Everyone, take care, and we'll see you next week.